comfortable saying that Kris, at the very least, knew Shad was drawing a lot of lolicon stuff, which is bad. Do we know that Kris had definitive knowledge that Shad drew real children? No. It's pretty bad. All right. With that being said, chat, if you want to debate me, if you think I'm wrong, hop in. I'm not looking for people who agree with me. I'm looking for people to debate me. Smaggle is posting the Discord link in chat. Eli Frank. Hello, Eli. Are you there? Eli!
Oh, what? How am I here?
You called into the stream.
Oh, okay, so I kind of feel like Kris Tyson, he didn't really do much wrong. I feel like what he did obviously was f***ed up, but I don't think there's enough to get like a legality involved.
Technically, from what we've seen, I don't think there's anything illegal. I wouldn't say he didn't do much wrong. I wouldn't say that's the case.
I would say the lolly porn it's wrong because it's literally just child but drawn. But everything else is just kind of okay. But I still feel like the Mr. Beast stuff, like the one where he's saying, "I put my dick in her," that's f***ed up, bro. Like, come on.
To be clear, I wouldn't say it's okay. I wouldn't say what Kris did is okay.
Yeah, of course it's not.
I don't think it's okay. I don't know if there's proof of grooming, but I would not say the comments Kris made were okay. I would never say that. I don't think that's true.
Yeah, the grooming, there's no evidence of him grooming anybody. It's just more CP stuff.
Yeah, it seems like people are using a different definition. Okay, sorry. Did you just say it's grooming and not grooming and more CP stuff? I'm sorry. I think you need to change your wording there. What?
No, like not CP stuff. Like the lolicon stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, from what I can tell, there isn't direct evidence of them grooming a child in the sense that they were grooming a kid with the intent of them. That seems to not be the case. If you want to say it's a different definition of grooming, maybe we can talk about that. But I would not say that there's no. I would not say there's. I would not say that. I don't think Kris should be defended. I don't think every claim made about them is totally accurate. That's all I'm saying.
I think him kind of being friends with the like younger kids is kind of f***ed up though. Like you're so old, you shouldn't be hanging out with little kids.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean,
yeah.
Especially if something bad happened between them, which we can see there's like really weird stuff going on, but I just don't have evidence that he groomed or got nudes from them. Yeah, but anyway, thanks for calling.
Yeah. See you, Tom.
All right. Gage, what's up?
What's up? Okay, so I do have a hot take, I think. First of all, I don't think the Shadman thing is as bad as everyone's making it out to be. And I also don't think that the like Discord messages
Shadman thing isn't as bad as people make it out to be.
are really that bad. I feel like it's getting blown out of proportion, especially when people compare it to Dr. Disrespect. I think you cannot compare those two at all.
Okay, could you explain yourself?
Okay, so first of all, I think Shadman overall is a bad person. I think we can all agree on this. I mean, first of all, drawing an actual child as like a lolly art is just that is insane. Okay. But I don't think you can hold Kris accountable, as in saying like, or Ava, whatever you want to say, as in like he knew everything that Shadman was all about. I think if we look back to 2016, 2017, most people, or not most people, but a lot of edgier creators, they did like Shadman. They would repost his stuff. They talk to him. And I don't think like, I don't know, you cannot call this CP and compare this on any type of level to CP, in my opinion, at least. And I also don't think like...
You can't call it literal child because there's not a literal child being like abused. Although you can kind of say that in the case of drawing the real children. I think you can say it with there. But it's still not, that doesn't mean it's good, right?
But, so do you know this situation? Out of curiosity.
Right. I don't think it's
yeah,
it's not good.
But I definitely, it's obviously not a good look. Like I would not want to be caught with that, right? But
and also, do you think it's like I feel like it's, you know, we don't have evidence that Kris knew about the real children being drawn, but don't you think it's reasonable to assume if they were a big fan? We've seen them responding to Shad a lot. We've seen that they went on his website once for shouting him out. Like, to me, it's hard to believe that you could be such a big fan of Shad and go through his website so much and not know most of the stuff that was going on, right? Like, I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, it just seems dumb.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I think I can also think like, okay, for example, someone like you, I feel like I watch a lot of your videos. I think I keep up. I watch a decent amount of streams, but I definitely wouldn't say like I've known everything you've done, especially, you know, maybe in the past or maybe even just like 6 months ago. I just, I don't know. And but okay, maybe despite the Shadman.
But it was a recurring theme. Like like the guy didn't just have one the lady, whatever it is. She didn't have an isolated incident. Like it's a recurring theme over the years. So even if they didn't, like they had to have known to some extent about the artist because it's a recurring theme. It's not just an isolated incident. There's been multiple incidents.
I also think the making sexual jokes to the 13-year-old, 16-year-old, whatever in his Discord server, and even like dare I say, even opening channels to the underage kids, I think it's incredibly irresponsible of him, and obviously he should be criticized for it. But I do not think, or she, sorry, I do not think she should be like ostracized, or I can't think of the word, but like kicked out of the internet for it. Ostracized, yeah.
I mean,
I just don't.
I think there could be a lot of criticism, and if people want to ostracize them, I don't feel bad for them. I just think that there's not definitive evidence that they specifically groomed the Lobbit person, right? I haven't seen specific evidence of that. I don't think it's okay, but
I feel like maybe I'm just like not like maybe I don't know. I definitely have a biased view on this because I've definitely been like I mean obviously you have too, been on a more edgier side of the internet, but I just think like what people are, especially with a lot of these commentary videos, it's like she was only 14 in the thumbnail, and obviously it's clickbait, but it's kind of like I don't know. I almost feel bad for Ava or Kris because it's like this is really getting blown out of proportion, and I mean getting kicked out of Mr. Beast, and he says or she says she's not going to be on the internet anymore. My hot take is that I do not think it's that bad. I think the Shadman is bad, but even though I just don't think anything can be compared to. And people comparing this to Dr. Disrespect, I think like Dr. Disrespect committed an actual like act that we know that's confirmed. Nothing Kris or nothing Ava did, in my opinion, was anything, and that's just kind of what my quote unquote hot take of this is.
I mean, wouldn't you agree that we know more about what Tyson did than what Dr.
The thing is, like,
did?
I kind of disagree. Like,
Yeah, it's not an isolated incident. Hasn't there been more than one person? There's been more than one person. He was a big time fan of a guy who drew inappropriate stuff of kids. Like it's at some point 1+1=2 that this guy screwed up, right? Or this lady screwed up, whatever it is. Oh, what's this? So basically, there is one of the crew members of that Mr. Beast crew, the trans person, Kris, has been outed recently about inappropriate behavior with minors. Not necessarily anything physical, but they like supported an artist who was known for drawing CP. They basically have had inappropriate conversations with multiple underage kids, and we're not talking about like, oh, they're 17 fixing to turn 18. No, like 14 years old, like young kids. So they got like canceled outright. And at first they tried to make it sound like it was amicable. They left the Mr. Beast team, and both it was amicable, and then I believe Mr. Beast just released a thing like a day or two ago that's like, no, we let that person go. That was just wrong. That was messed up.
in the way that
But people are trying to say that they're comparing the current situation with the Dr. Disrespect situation in this video with this gentleman. And to me, they're like, he didn't seem to do, or she didn't seem to do anything that bad. Well, the thing is, it's a recurring theme. It's not an isolated incident. It's like 1 + 1 = 2 at some point, right? So how many like it's like how many reoccurrences do there need to be before you realize this is a problem?
Kris got nudes from a child. From what I've seen, no. But I still think that the lolly stuff, in my opinion, that is kind of.
Yeah, definitely having a poster on your wall is not looking good.
And it's more than that.
Like
It's like there's like a body of evidence of them being like, one of the Reddit comments was like, "Why would I have a VR headset for anything other than lolly gang?" Like obviously like one of those jokes out of context could be like, oh, okay, whatever. But like when you have like 30 of them and you're like responding to Shadman all the time, being like, "Shad, please do this, please." Like Kris knew what he was doing, Take it
Right.
easy.
Yep. Thank you.
What's up,
Gage.
Bingo?
Yeah.
What's up? We're talking about Kris Tyson, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just gonna get right into it. I don't want to bore the viewers. I think the one thing that annoys me about pretty much everyone who speaks about this situation is how like people choose like focus on one specific thing that has happened, and then say, "Oh well, everything else isn't a big deal. This is the actual big deal." I feel like we have like big enough brains to be able to handle like more than 2 pieces of allegations at a time.
So you're
Like,
saying like
it's all
you're
bad.
saying like in totality, when you put it all together and put it on Kris, it's clear that they're. Is that what you're saying?
No, sorry. What I mean is that like people are taking one thing and then saying this is the actual issue. I think it's all of it is an issue. It's a combined issue. We can't just like separate it down to individual chunks and go,
Right.
like, well, this is the actual bad thing.
That's exactly what I was saying. It's like these things add up over time. It's a recurring theme of smaller things that add up. You can't sit there and just be like, oh well, you have one isolated incident. Okay, you had an isolated incident. This isn't an isolated incident. It's a recurring theme with underage minors. Like that's not good.
And then like the other stuff doesn't really matter that much because in totality it is a problem.
Well, then what is your conclusion at the end of the day then?
So I don't know if Kris Tyson is a, but it's pretty obvious that she should be ostracized from, I guess, the Mr. Beast crew, right? It's not.
I completely agree, especially when it's like a kid-friendly brand and like
yeah,
it's just even if there's no inherent risk of Kris one of those kids. I just like I wouldn't be comfortable having like somebody that I know is like jacking into lolly all the time around kids. I wouldn't be cool with
yeah. I mean the tax.
Yeah. I don't. I haven't seen anything indicating that he ever crossed into anything physical, but still, you don't talk about certain things around children. Like anyone who and the guy and so I keep saying guy. I'm misgendering. I'm not trying to intentionally, but she has a kid. Like she knows this, and I'm not sure if all this happened before she became a parent or after or both. Probably both. But it's kind of you don't even like Mr. Beast. I'm hit or miss. I really don't have any feelings either way with Mr. Beast. Like it doesn't matter to me. I don't watch his content. I do applaud his philanthropy though. I do like commend that because he does genuinely. One of the things that he does a lot, and I think he doesn't really publicize it that much, but he doesn't hide it either. Is he funds a lot of soup kitchens for people in his state, like a lot. Food banks and stuff. I mean, so that's like stupid button. That's I applaud that, but as far as like his content goes, it's I don't know. It feels like some of it is easily it feels like his content's like one of those things where if you sit there and you play funny music, it looks like a comedy, but if you play scary music, it looks like it'd be a horror. Like this video is really lighthearted, but if you just literally just tweak the music on it and just change a couple camera angles, it looked like very predatorial. It looked very dark and sinister, even though that's not the intent. It just feels a lot of his content feels like that.
Texting stuff. I mean, there are like a crazy amount of messages coming out, but at least some of the ones that I've seen, it's like it's freakishly weird, but it's hard to say whether it's I mean, they're not. There's no grooming that's happening. Grooming is like you're like setting them up for a sexual relationship. There's nothing that really seems like that to me. But kind of that stuff being
Is that what grooming is? I didn't think it required sexual relation. You don't have to. Yeah, that's what I thought. Grooming, the practice of preparing or training someone for a particular purpose or activity. You don't have. It doesn't have to have a sexual component to be grooming someone. Like you don't. It's not. There is sexual grooming, but that is not the only type. Like you could, like people groom each other to take over family businesses. They groom each other to they groom children to go to certain schools. Yeah, it doesn't grooming does not require a sexual component always.
released, it just kind of opened the floodgates a little bit for everything to come back out.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the thing is,
think
like,
everyone-
I kind of agree with the point you're making, which is like, there doesn't seem to be a specific victim that was groomed in the situation that's like the victim of, but Kris themselves is still a person, regardless
Yeah,
of
exactly.
that, right? Like, that
mean,
would
like-
probably be like the conclusion I would draw.
The problem is all this, like, because all these small isolated controversies, it's kind of like a drip feed, and it's hard. Normally, when like this stuff comes out, it's all big all at once and it's all
Yep.
destroyed, right? But if you have like one allegation every 2 years, and they're like kind of small ones, it's very easy for people to get away with it. But I mean,
Yeah.
the floodgates.
That's a good point. That's a good point, especially with the information age we're at now. It's very out of sight, out of mind a lot of times. Like that's a very, very good point. That's why I say it adds up.
Have kind of opened, everything's been like relitigated, and now I think we can all pretty much agree that this person probably should have never been associated with a children's brand in the first place, considering like their record.
I completely agree. Yeah. Maybe, I mean, the biggest criticism I could give Mr. Beast, especially from a business perspective, is like having that kind of person on your brand or whatever. Like when you've gotten it as big as it is, like you've got to drop that person at some point, especially if you're going to be
That's
like
true.
such a family friendly PC person in current day. And then you have all these like skeletons in Chris's closet,
That's true, but to lend him a little bit of credibility and charitability, this person's like his childhood friend. It's kind of easy to imagine you might have like rose-tinted glasses in this kind of situation.
Oh, of course. To be clear, I don't think that Mr.
That's true. It is hard to like cut ties with friends, but at the same time, when you're a business owner, you have to make the calls. Like at some point, personal relationships end and professional relationships begin. And when the reputation of one of your employees or coworkers is dragging down your brand, and everything's built off the brand, you got to cut them loose. Like he didn't. I don't think he had a real choice in that.
Beast protected them, or even knew all the shit they were up to. I think that's a dumb claim to make without evidence. Dumb claim to make. You can think, you can have questions about it, but once again, my thing with this entire thing is just like evidence. I want to see evidence, and that's the biggest concern right now, I think. But well, what's up?
Do you think he was at least vaguely aware? Because there is that video that was of Mr. Beast and Kris where the lolly art was
He was
shown.
probably vaguely aware that Kris was a fan, but he probably, if I had to guess, I mean, I'd like to see evidence of this claim, but I don't think you can rather than I had to guess, I'll say I don't think you can definitively say that he knew everything that Shad was up to, or the stuff that Finster was into, right?
Yeah.
I don't
And
think you
then
can say that.
also, why would your opinion change if I said that they cut out that part of the video inside the video? It was like 12 minutes long, the video, and now it's 10 minutes because of
Well, it
this.
depends on when it was cut out.
It depends on when and why. I mean, the thing is, like, just because it's cut, it might have been that Kris just messaged him, was like, hey, this is a bad look for you, you should cut this out, and Mr. Beast didn't think twice about it. It could be that it could be that Kris Tyson came to Mr. Beast and was like, hey, I'm a lolicon, can you cut this out because it looks bad? It could be either of those, but like, I just don't know. I don't know. And I have to know.
It's the two kind of like, so this is how a lot of people are choosing to see it. Either Kris Tyson was like a complete Shadmad fan, watched every single drawing, had it all saved, organized, categorized, literally a complete super fan.
Tax folder.
Or the other side, like, oh, they were only aware of like some of the funny SpongeBob drawings and maybe a few pieces of art, but I mean, like, they weren't. I feel like we're high IQ enough to say like it might be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
It,
I feel like that's probably more than likely the situation, because most people don't have that unhealthy of obsession with artists, like visual artists. So I feel like it's probably in the middle, where he just picked and choose the type of art that he chose to acquire from that person, or promote, or whatever he did or she did. I keep misgendering, but like, I yeah, I don't see anyone getting that obsessive about an artist other than other artists, which I'm gonna go rant about that later.
it's like we're not gonna figure out.
From what we have, I would be comfortable saying that Kris, at the very least, knew Shad was drawing a lot of lolicon stuff, which is bad. Do we know that Kris had definitive knowledge that Shad drew real children? No. I kind of feel like it's hard to believe that Kris didn't, just given the fact that Kris was such a big fan and was on his website. But at the same time, when I posted my video about Shadman years ago, most people just knew that he drew lolly stuff, and they didn't know that he drew real children, right? That stuff was kind of, it was unknown to them, to the fans at least. So it's hard to say. He knew and requested lolly. He requested lolly. He didn't request lolly of a real child. Requesting lolly is still bad, and that should be absolutely criticized and condemned. And Kris Beast should be kicked from Mr. Beast's team. But yeah. I don't know if Kris 1000% knew that Shadman drew Daphne Keene being.
It's because obviously Kris Tyson has like done enough stuff for us to look at it and go like, yeah, this person is like obviously reprehensible. But the problem is, just because they're reprehensible, you can't go back and then have like the most. Oh yeah, they're like Satan. You have to kind of be balanced in some respects, because if you go all the way to the extreme, you kind of lose all amount of like credibility in the allegations that you're making. We kind of have to be measured here. Otherwise, it's very easy for like some outside.
But the problem with that is you're asking someone to not judge someone based off of their value system, and people are always going to do that. So to a lot of people, especially people who have kids, the idea of an adult being any type of inappropriate towards a child is inexcusable, and it does make them like the most heinous human being they can think of. Because to that individual, to be inappropriate or to do something to a child like that is the most like sinister thing you could ever do. So to sit there, I disagree with that. I personally don't think that's a good take, because you're asking people to standardize their value systems, and no one ever does that.
Observers to go, oh well, they're obviously overdoing it. It's quite clear. You kind of you give them an opportunity to escape with some amount of significant public support. And if everything we're seeing right now is true, that's probably like an awful idea.
Right. Okay. All right. I'm gonna call Vegan Gains. I'm done with debates apart from him, I think. But I'm gonna call Vegan Gains, and then we're gonna get into other B stuff. Let's do it. Vegan Gains wants to talk. Yo.
Hey.
What do you want to talk about?
Yeah. So with the lolicon stuff, I think there's a little bit of pearl clutching going on here, and the reason I say that is, one, I haven't heard a good argument yet, and I'm open to changing my opinion on this, but I'm a free speech advocate. I think there are certain forms of speech that should be banned, like hate speech. And when we have this moral opinion about lolicon content, I don't know of any way to justify, say, banning lolicon content without banning other explicit or controversial forms of art. The only argument that I've been able to come up with personally is that it could be considered hate speech.
I don't understand. Like that, we're talking about characters that are physically depicted as being minors, even though there's some backstory or lore claiming they're not. I don't think it's that deep.
So if you're making artwork that is supposed to encourage child sexual exploitation, I would consider that something like hate speech. I don't know if that's the kind of intention behind Shad's artwork. In that case, I think, yeah, that is morally reprehensible and something like that should be banned. But I know some people in the lolly community. There's one member of my channel who's like a lolly freak. They kind of
Yeah, the guy who's so the guy who's on the live stream talking right now is a content creator called Vegan Gains. He has a history of like being unhinged. I don't know if he still is like that, but the argumentation so far that he can't understand why something like lolly stuff would be banned, I think is silly. Like everyone knows what that is. That they're literally depictions of people who are in a childlike state, even if they aren't. That's what the depiction is. So if you can, like, I don't understand why that's so hard for people to get. Um, Let me see real quick. So this is something in my here where I'm at. Um, it's basically I had to be careful of the vernacular I use on this because it can get banned. It's a statutory grape. Now imagine the second word didn't have a G in front of it. Basically, that is in common law, according to Wikipedia, right? In common law jurisdictions, statutory grape is non-forcible sexual activity in which one of the individuals is below the age of consent. Although it usually refers to adults engaging in activity in contact with minors under the age of consent, it is a generic term. Very few jurisdictions use the actual term statutory grape in language of statutes. Overt force or threat is usually not present. Laws presume coercion because a minor or mentally disabled adult is legally incapable of giving consent to the act. So, different jurisdictions use many different statutory terms for the crime, such as assault, rape, corruption of a minor, unlawful act with a minor, carnal knowledge of a minor, things like that. So, couldn't that fall under that statutory law? I would think it would. So I don't understand why people are dancing around like it could be considered that. It could be a statutory offense instead of just saying that
make it a point.
he just approached. No, he engaged in like sexually explicit type themes with a minor that was not his child. It was not for educational purposes. It was not for anything other than his own kicks or her own kicks. I keep misgendering, but fuck it at this point. But how's that not a statutory offense? I'm not seeing anyone call out it's a statutory offense.
That they're not interested in children. They're just interested in lolly art. I'm sure there is an overlap between people who are. I don't know if I'm saying something, by the way, that's inappropriate for stream. Just tell me.
So
But,
let's, I guess, let's
yeah.
just dissect this a little bit. So I'll ask the same question that I asked the other guy. So if you found out, let's say that I'm straight, okay? Let's say that I'm straight, hypothetically, and then you find out that I'm off to a lot of drawings of gay men having sex, right? You would probably say that I'm gay, right?
Not necessarily.
Really?
I know. I personally know straight women who masturbate to lesbian porn. So,
But like,
they're
you just believe that they're
well, they
straight?
have no interest in having any kind of sexual relationship with women.
Well, maybe
But
not.
for whatever
Well, the thing is, like,
reason,
maybe not. Maybe they don't want to do it for a bunch of reasons. I mean, they can't reproduce with them. Maybe they like dicks more than they like women. But like, I would still probably.
Well, that you raise a point. If Chris was a straight white male, they'd be done and gone. That's true. And part of the funny thing is people have called out the fact that more people are offended that this individual gets misgendered, I've done a few times right now talking about this. Right? They're more offended, or they take more offense to that than they do the fact that this individual, she was approaching children and talking about sexually explicit stuff and has a history of like a lolly porn addiction or hentai addiction, whatever the exact thing is. I'm not trying to say that's what it is. I'm just saying allegedly all this has happened. But it's crazy that more people are getting more focused on that than they are the minor being talked to in this manner. That's crazy. I think the people have mental disorders who think that is the real issue is other people misgender, or they're trying to do hate speech on this person, and it's like you're an idiot. Someone who does stuff like this is not deserving of respect. I do not have to respect their pronouns if I don't want to, and I'm not going to respect their pronoun. I'm trying, but I'm not obligated to be nice to a shithead. Yeah, there's no. Yeah, done. Yeah,
Say
done.
that person is like bisexual at the very least, right? Like if they're, because the thing they're up to is a drawing.
Well-
It is a drawing, obviously, but the drawing represents and there's like a depiction with like human anatomy of like a human being having sex, right?
well, sexuality. So, if we're talking about sexual preferences, it exists on a spectrum. Nobody well, it's very rare anyway. Nobody is like totally straight, totally gay. Like for me, for instance, I have no interest in men. I do find like trans women attractive. I've never like been interested in any trans people, but I do find them attractive. And if I knew somebody who was trans, I wouldn't be like against a relationship with them. It's just that I don't have any kind of preference towards trans people. You could say that's kind of slightly towards the spectrum of
So, by that logic, why are they talking about this? What is the point of this? So, he's trying to make the argumentation that just because Chris liked lolly drawings and lolly hentai does not necessarily mean that Chris had a propensity for being attracted towards children. And the guy, who's streaming this, he's kind of coming about this a different way. But to me, I mean, like, I don't know. It doesn't.
gay
It's
because they have a penis or something.
it's not making sense because by Vegan Gains logic, he says that not everyone's completely. It's rare for people to be completely straight or completely gay. Well, then, if his argumentation is that he's attracted to trans people, then he's saying that trans people are men. So either you know what I mean? Does that make sense? How people kind of get circular with this stuff? I don't know if Vegan Gains perspective is transitioning people going from male to female or still male. Because if that is, that means that he's not attracted to them because he doesn't consider them women. He's attracted to them as male. Does that make sense? So it's a very weird. No. Chris spoke to a minor end up. Yeah, no. I'm agreeing with that. It's this guy's trying to make the argumentation that just because he likes the lolly stuff, right? That it's not an indicator that he would ever act on it or he ever has any physical attraction towards real life children.
There are
That's
also
what he's
people
trying to argue.
who only have an interest in masturbating to like homosexual, but
So the
they
thing is,
never
like, from
do it
my
themselves.
perspective,
Like,
I guess
I don't know.
for me, I guess I just don't buy that somebody can be like not gay in real life, quote unquote, but jerk off to gay porn. Like, I just don't. That doesn't make. And
Well-
that doesn't make sense. Like, if you're off to a
Well-
guy,
See, like he's calling out the argumentation that he was trying to make.
Look,
having sex with a guy, you're probably gay or at least bisexual.
sure. So
right?
the point you're making is if you're off to like lolly, you probably have some sort of interest in children.
I don't think it necessarily means that you are going to a child in real life. Either because you think it would be bad for the child and there's like moral repercussions behind that, or because you think that it would have negative repercussions for you, like jail time. But I think that that person is probably, if they're attracted to cartoon of like a depiction of a child and it's clear in context that it is a child, and they're attracted to the idea of a child being abused by an adult, they probably are, yeah.
Well, I've talked to people in like who are lolicons, and they'll say to me they just like really cute things. And a young-looking female is just particularly cute the way they're drawn. It's not necessarily anything to do with their age. There's
He was trying not to say anything just then. Oh my god. This is such convoluted thinking. Holy crap.
also like a dominance aspect to it where they're like really small, stuff like that. Like you can find
the thing is, like,
plenty...
you can like petite women. Like, that's not the problem. But like lolicon in specific is a drawing of like a depiction of a child, like a 9-year-old.
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
You could say that you're into cute things. Like, okay, I'm into cute things like cats. I'm not into cute things like kids. Like there is like a distinction there.
Well, I would be very suspicious of somebody.
They are actual depictions of children, and then they give them this weird convoluted backstory to try to justify what they're doing. It is that's lolly stuff is kids.
Who's interested in lolicon content, but again, from my own personal experience talking to people within the lolly community, they have no interest in real children, at least the ones that I've talked to.
But if
like,
they wouldn't admit it. They wouldn't admit it if they did. That's how you get arrested. Like, no one's going to admit, no one with two brain cells to rub together are going to admit to something like that.
Interest in children, would they tell you?
Yeah, well, see, exactly. They're not going to say anything. I don't understand that logic that this Vegan Gains is having on this, because they're not going to say something like that because everyone knows it's wrong. I don't know why like lolly stuff is even allowed like that. It's blatant what it is. Let's just be real here. Lolly community. Yes, there's actually a lolly community.
Probably not. But again, like, look, I like watching, like grape play, and like where girls tied up and stuff. Does that mean I have an interest in actually like graping a woman? Like, no.
No, but you probably find like consensual non-consent hot, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And the point to the consensual non-consent is because the woman is actually consenting, but it's like role play in the context of the sex, then it's not because she consents, right? So with that,
right.
So like, to me, with that line of logic,
But I mean,
does
that make you? But I mean, does that make you suspicious that I would actually have non-consensual sexual intercourse with somebody?
No, not necessarily. But I'm not making the argument that every lolicon is going to rape a kid. I'm making the argument that they're attracted to kids.
Well, when they tell you that, okay,
there you go,
I'm not attracted to children.
Like that's it. That literally is that if they're attracted to lolly art, the characters in lolly art, and they're designed to be children, that's what they're attracted to. That's what are we talking about here? It's not
like,
deep.
They don't go to a public pool, look at a kid, and get aroused. And they're just telling you, I just specifically like lolly art.
How do you know that, though? You would not. They would never say that. They would never admit to that. No one would. No one would admit to that. It's not hard. Like, what is this guy talking about?
I'm inclined to believe people when they tell you what they're actually interested in.
No, they will lie all the time. People have shame, especially when it comes to sexual stuff. People will lie all the time. They always do about their kinks usually. They'll tell you that little surface level, oh, I'm into bondage. No, they don't tell you the real crazy stuff. Yeah, exactly. No one's going to. No one's going to. You were fucking stupid if you think they're going to. There's a reason why when oh my God.
You can be suspicious, sure.
The thing is, like, being a is not something that a would want to admit, right? Like, you ask most.
Well, thank you. He keeps reiterating. He's trying to. This guy's okay. So it's Tommy Dark, I think is it? If I'm remembering correctly, is his name? Tom Dark. He's having a completely normal, common sense stance on this. But the Vegan Gains is just trying to do these weird mental gymnastics. You're losing brain cells just listening to him. I know. We only got 10 more minutes of this. I just needed the YouTube video for today.
Well,
and they're like, oh no, even after they get
well, yeah, certainly. But I mean, if there are enough people who are unhinged on the internet where they will tell you, yeah, I'm into children.
Who?
There have been
who has ever done that? I want to know who has done that. How many people have done that? I guarantee you there's nobody. If they did, it was because they were already outed. I guarantee you, no one who sit there and had this in the closet just is like open about this stuff. Like that's crazy to think that.
Quite a few channels on YouTube where they will actually defend the idea that it's okay to be I haven't met any lollies, aside from maybe one that said they're actually interested in children. Most of them do say they're not actually interested in children, they're just interested in lolly art. And again, like when you watch like shows like To Catch a Predator.
Well, you can't say so. I understand what you're saying about the woke culture stuff, and to a degree, you're right. But also, you got to think about the Catholic Church. Like this stuff has been an issue, and the Catholic Church is conservative, right? So it's not strictly one side or the other on this one. It's just right now it's prevalent in some sects of wokeism, but it's also been prevalent in like the Catholic Church, which is conservative by nature. Or does that not make sense?
Or just watch any of these catchers on YouTube. Like, have you seen any of them that are actually interested in lolly art? Because I've only ever seen these people have like actual CP content on their
maybe
phone.
not, but typically they're not going to volunteer everything. Like when they get to the Kris Hansen cache, they're not going to be like, oh, I also jerk it to drawings of the kids.
Right, but
I mean,
the point I'm making is I've never seen any TCAP sting. I've never seen any of these exposés on people where they are actual child predators and they're regular consumers of lolly content. So I don't think there's this huge overlap between lolly watchers and actual child predators.
How would you know? How would you know? Like, how would you know that? Because whenever the government sits there and they bust one of these people and they say they have a bunch of CP on their computer, they never what is defined? Is it would the lolly stuff qualify as CP according to law enforcement? We don't know. I don't know. I don't think anyone does.
Interested in actual children.
Because even though the anime type of stuff is, as far as I know, legal, that does not mean that the law enforcement, when it comes to criminal charges, wouldn't categorize that as CP in my country.
So when this person has like a relationship with Shad and is likely kind of interested in some of the lolly content he's made, I don't think that's like a damning thing where it's like, okay, this person's a predator. And so far from what I've seen with the
To be clear,
like
I don't.
leaked.
My take is basically I don't know that they're a predator in terms of did they actually diddle a child, Kris Tyson. I haven't seen evidence of that.
Well, yeah.
But to me,
What we're
them
talking
being-
about is whether or not they have an interest in children.
right. So to me, them being a lolicon is like bad enough, in my opinion.
Well, it is very strange that this person has added minors to their Snapchat. They've said some things on Snapchat that is right around the line. Is there any messages or anything where they've actually tried to proposition a minor?
No, and that's the only thing that I've been able to about those messages to say is like they're irresponsible and really weird, but they haven't actually tried to proposition a specific minor. That in specific interpretation, I agree with, but where we differ is on the lolly thing,
Right.
But I do think that stuff, like the comfortability, making like weird comments with like
Yeah,
people
it
who are
is.
too young. The comfortability with that is very irresponsible, and that combined with the lolly thing, like these things being put together, makes you think that Kris Tyson is a freak. Right, like these things together, and like on the same account that they're publicly replying to Shadman, they're also publicly responding to like a 14-year-old, where like that 14-year-old can access what they're saying about Shadman, and like that kid can see that porn. Like that's all that put together is bad.
Yeah, and Shad has drawn actual like
Children,
people, right?
yes.
Like actual children.
Yeah,
Yeah.
real-life children.
So like he's drawing like Macaulay Culkin or something. Like
he drew Daphne Keane when she was 12 years old, getting raped by Hugh Jackman. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Do you think that would make
I think
Shadman a
because
pedophile or no?
No, not necessarily. He may just be
Right.
making.
You're right.
obscene
No,
art for the
you
sake of
shouldn't be
making
talking to
obscene art.
minors.
But who knows? I can't go inside this person's mind. Like I think
Like
there are
period.
two interpretations of this that are equally valid. One interpretation is this person is likely very immature. Like we've seen her make a post on YouTube, spreading revenge of that iCarly actress.
Like is
so-
immaturity like an excuse for actions? Like I
No,
feel like it's not.
no, but it's not an excuse. But what I'm pointing out is this person's probably immature. That might explain.
Immature doesn't have anything. You can be immature and not do stuff like that, man. Like, what are you talking about?
Why they're okay with having conversations with children to begin with. They kind of see themselves as a bit of a child.
I agree.
like,
but that's not good. That's still not good.
Yeah.
I'm not
Exactly.
saying it's good, but what I'm saying is this may be an explanation for why they're comfortable with having conversations with children to begin with. Whereas it's not, it doesn't have anything to do with a sexual interest in children. And again, the Shadman stuff and the lolly crap, that may just be a particular interest in like lolly. And then on the other hand, it is equally valid to look at the summation of this evidence and say, this person may have a sexual interest in children, given the lolly content, given that they're talking to minors. Like, how old is Ava?
Ava is currently 26. They were 20 when this happened, and the person involved, Lava GS, the main person they're talking about was 13 at the beginning.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
more to me that this person's probably just very immature.
Yes.
I think there's another aspect to this too, because they came out as trans, because of this whole like LGBTQ or
Bro, that has been nothing but a shield for the most part for this shit. Like if this was if it was some dude still, they would be nuked from orbit.
I think that's
I mean, certainly
a
as far as
big
like
factor.
as far as the media coverage, a lot of people are pushing that, and I don't like that that's the reason, like the culture war stuff for those people. But That's not the reason for everyone. Like for Moist Critical, right? When he makes his video, I don't think it's because Kris Tyson is trans, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think Moist Critical or Mudahar is kind of making that assumption. But yeah, this person's 20, clearly immature. Like, you know, he's a YouTuber, and I think you tend to see immaturity in that kind of YouTuber content creator community. 20 years old when some of this happened. And again, I haven't seen anything where they're sexually propositioning anybody. Like, oh, like what color
I agree.
panties
I
do
haven't
you
seen a
wear?
specific
You know?
sexual proposition. I agree with that, and that is a distinction that needs to be made. But
Right.
I still think what Kris did is wrong.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
certainly. I don't think somebody should be sending a minor on Snapchat like, I'm coming
Well,
for America.
if you agree that it's wrong, why are you trying to provide such nuances to give the girl, whatever, a way out? That makes no sense.
You know, or
or like kissing emojis
something
or
to that
stuff like
effect.
that, yeah.
Like, one thing too that I want to point out is kids who are around the age, like I would say between the age of like 12 and older, like they're all playing Grand Theft Auto. So when we're looking at this in the modern context,
What's that have to do with anything?
other media they may be consuming, they're all watching like YouTube reaction content with some age inappropriate stuff. They're all playing Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, games that include like a lot of graphic violence, including sexual violence. When Ava sends somebody something like that, who I think they were 15, or do I have that wrong? Like the Coming for America thing.
The Coming for America, I believe, was when they were 15. Yeah.
Yeah, that just isn't something to me where it really crosses the line. It's near a line, but it's not something that would cross the line. Like I rarely ever have any interactions with people that age, but when I was doing online consulting for like fitness programs, I had a Skype call with a Discord call with somebody. I think they were 16 and their profile name was Hentai Addict. So I
what does that have to do with the kid? It doesn't matter what the kid is doing. It matters what the adult was doing. Like, what is he talking about here?
I obviously didn't talk about hentai with this person or anything. I just said, that's a hilarious name. That's as far as that went. So
Right, because you were an adult and you didn't do cringe shit. That's the point.
Like, I just feel like some people are taking some of these things incredibly uncharitably. And again, it may have something to do with her being trans. And
no, it doesn't. It has everything to do with the fact this individual was an adult and the person they were doing this stuff with was a minor, and they keep looking at lolly, which is basically minor porn.
And it may have something to do with people being just very protective of children, which is like legitimate. But when I see something like that, I'm like, okay. I'm kind of gonna disregard that. If there's anything worse, like her sending, I don't know, artwork of Shadman to a minor, that's something that I would say, okay, that crosses the line. That's something I put in the evidence bin.
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, I do got to get out of here because I got to piss, and then we got to look at other stuff. But yeah, thanks for calling in. To people in chat, calling vegan gains, that is not cool. That is wrong. But anyway,
I'm not.
Yeah. Anyway,
that is, that is the most convoluted mental gymnastics I've heard in a long time. That's so stupid. None of that, what he said, provided any type of nuance or justification for what happened. Like, none. Holy shit. Let me see if there's anything